today has been marked as International Access to Information Day since informally by civil society organizations and media organizations and human rights activists since about 2002, following an access to information conference in the Bulgarian capital, Sofia, and the 28th September was actually the last day of the conference, of this major conference. So September 28 was just, sort of inadvertently, because of that, became the day that has now become International Day for Universal Access to Information. And also, last year, or in 2015, when the UNESCO General Conference adopted September 28, September 28 was actually a day on which there was no UN especially themed day marked. So it just so happened that, okay, so this day is open, we can actually then recognize this as International Day for Universal Access to Information. And that's where we are right now. So we're actually today marking the very first globally recognized Universal Day for, International Day for Universal Access to Information.
All right. Okay. Now let's just get straight to the first question. For the individual out there, what does access to information basically mean?
Well, access to information is a lot of things. Access to information is access to development. It is access to upliftment. It is access to well-being. It is access to empowerment. Because we need information to improve ourselves, to improve our communities, to improve our nation. Without knowledge, without information, you're blind, and especially in the context of the knowledge economy, which is where we are at this stage, this technology-mediated economy to a large extent, where there's so much information out there that could inform our personal and collective development, and it's recognized as strategically critical for the development goals, the 2030 agenda of the United Nations, to which Namibia subscribes, which Namibia is a signatory to since 2015, where access to information is recognized as critical to nations' development. So, this is what it is. At local levels, access to information can mean access to birth control, access to health services, access to employment services, all these things where if you have this sort of knowledge, then you can access services, and you can improve your situation and your life and so forth.
Okay, so is it now the access to information? Is it guaranteed in our constitution?
Well, we have freedom of expression under our fundamental Bill of Rights, rights and freedoms. We have freedom of expression in Article 21, sort of implied in that is access to information. Because if you look at the international understanding of freedom of expression, the flip side is always considered, in order to have real meaningful freedom of expression, you need that right to information. If you're going to express yourself meaningfully, you need information that informs that expression. So the two go together. You can't have freedom of expression without having access to information. And this is how international instruments sort of articulate, various international human rights and development instruments that Namibia is a party to. This is how this is articulated. So in our sense, although we have freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of the media, in our constitution, not sort of, we have it in our constitution, enshrined in our constitution. We don't have sort of the explicit enshrinement of access to information, but it is implied in the freedom of expression.
Explicit. We don't have the explicit. Can you maybe simplify that, because we have some?
Yeah. So it isn't the words freedom, access to information do not appear in our constitution. But it is sort of understood that is the brother of freedom of expression. Access to information is the twin of freedom of expression.
I'm thinking maybe does it now maybe mean that now the fact that what you just said now, does it mean that now I have the right to go to an office that maybe is accountable to me, or is accountable to go demand for, hey, I need these statistics, I need to know where this particular thing happened, or how this, like just to go to an office, a public office, to demand for their books or their papers as just an individual. Does it also qualify in that regard?
I think it does, and I think if you speak to lawyers, legal experts in this, constitutional experts, they would say yes. If you look at Namibia's commitments under various international laws and practices, yes, this is what you should be able, as an individual, should be able to do, and in a democratic society, which Namibia is, or which we hold ourselves up to be. So yes, that you are supposed to be able to do that. Now, a law would just make that much easier, because in the absence of a law, the official that you approach could argue differently, could say, yeah, but you don't have any legal, based on which law are you now standing here demanding this information from me? And then what do you say? I have the constitution. And the official could rightly say, well, show me in the constitution where it says you have access to information you are standing here demanding from me. And you can see how that would happen. But so the law would just make it easier. But the way the constitution is set up, and the way these international laws and practices are signed immediately into Namibian law, means actually, yes, that you can demand the information that you want. If it's sort of reasonable information, there's always has to be this element of reasonability and proportionality and so forth. And if you should be able to get that information, yes.
Okay, then let's just move on. Let's talk about the bill or the law. I'm not really much of that of a legal person, but what is the status of the Access to Information Bill as we speak now?
Well, the Access to Information Bill is in the National Assembly at the moment. It was tabled in the National Assembly earlier this year. And this follows nearly 5 years of trying to get it to this point. We in the Action Coalition, which is a coalition of civil society organizations and media organizations, we sat down with the Ministry of ICT and various other government departments in 2016, about mid-20, I think it was August 2016, July-August 2016, and we helped draft the initial bill. And since then, we've sort of been pushing, when is this coming to Parliament? When will we see a draft that is ready for tabling? So we've been pushing for this over the years. And over the last 3 years, every State of the Nation address, the President has actually promised to bring it to Parliament in that specific year. And every year, the Parliament, the bill has failed to to appear in Parliament. But now, the bill is in Parliament, but it seems to have bogged down because now there's a fight in Parliament between the various political parties over who gets to sit on committees. So the committees haven't been sorted out since the new Parliament was inaugurated in March this year. So we're still waiting to find out who is in which committee, and because this bill is now supposed to go to a committee on information, and it's got a long name, so I won't go into that. But to that committee, and then hopefully there will be public hearings, and people can give input. And we certainly want to address some of the issues we still have with the bill. It's nothing, we can't, we're going to die over. But I mean, we feel there are areas that need to be refined, that need to be sorted out before, so that we have the best possible eventual law that we can get. So this is where this bill is at the moment. Hopefully it can still be done before the end of this year, although I doubt it. But hopefully before the end of this financial year, which ends at the end of March 2021.
Maybe just before we continue, what are you guys what are you guys doing in order to push it to be done? I don't know what grounds you need to follow in terms of just pushing this. What you just alluded to. What are you guys doing to just push it to? Because I understand you guys are really advocating for this sort of bill to be passed. What have you been doing?
Well, I mean, we've been sort of using our networks. I mean, we have meetings with government officials. We write letters to various government officials. We have meetings with the relevant ministers and officials in the Ministry of ICT, and on an annual basis regularly, to ask what is the status of this. Where is this going? When can we see a finalized bill over the last few years? When will you be bringing it to Parliament? So we pay courtesy calls, for instance, every year on the Minister of ICT, and just address these issues that we have, and ask about the bill and where it is and so forth. And we go to other offices as well, such as we've been working with the Office of the Ombudsman as well to try and push that the bill be finalized, and we through our network we have various influential partners such as the Editors Forum of Namibia, which also regularly asks after the bill and has asked after the bill over the last 4 or 5 years. The Legal Assistance Center, which also has sort of been in correspondence with various government departments over this, and then of course we do stuff like this to try and get people at ground level to understand that, look, you need to be demanding this. This is for you. This is not for the media or for civil society. This is for the average Namibian as well. Mm-hmm. So we engage with the public like this through radio programs. Through newspaper columns, so that making use of the media platforms that are available to us to try and get the message out, to try and educate and inform people that this is something that they need to take an interest in. So it's not just the one thing. We make use of various means and methods to try and push and advocate for this to be brought to a head. And so that we can finally have a law in place that speaks to our commitments as Namibia, and that would just make things a whole lot better in terms of the availability of publicly held information.
Right. So if you just tuned in, you are, of course, listening to Rapids FM 107.7 in Rundu, and we are live on GoTV. That's channel 314. Alternatively, you can also catch us on our website. That's www.rapidsfm.com.na. What is that acronym again, Mr. Federico? AQ.
IDUAI.
IDUAI. International
Day for Universal Access to Information.
That is the day.
I don't know why they chose that name and made it so difficult.
So that is what we are talking about today, and I'm joined not telephonically but via Zoom, and I'm broadcasting the Zoom meeting that I'm having with Mr. Frederico. So if you'd like to come in and call and ask any question that you'd like to ask, you can call. I've managed to set up in a way that he can be able to hear you, because today is a very, very important day. So you need to, if you want to ask anything with regards to access to information, you can call in. The number to dial is 066256659 is the number to dial. Alternatively, you can also use our SMS line to ask Mr. Frederico anything with regards to access to information. I see kwa kara kapisi mo studio na kara mara kapisi naona kara mo studio mara koveri kwa gwane kiro na opa mpepo apo zili ngende sezona tura pozi karasi tukakare no kwa notate Frederico links au kwa kara mo studio nara kuinga mo studio wa kara na mara kapisi mo studio mara kwa kara kovenduka mara kwa kubelange kwa kuyunga yokamina ezua la neina si ezua la neina kwa kuyunga kwa access to information asi asikupi novura kugwana uzera ndiasi gwana uzera ndiasi nombudi awareness zokuvura gwana nombudi do hepero kwanyamu. If you'd like to go to an office or you'd like to get information or is there something like that, you can come in and have a conversation with me and Mr. Frederico.
You are listening to 107.7 FM Rapids, only in the heart of Rumi.
The Action Namibia Coalition, in collaboration with the Namibian Community Broadcasters Network, NCBN, invites you to join us as we celebrate the 2020 International Day for Universal Access to Information on September 28. We'll be hosting a series of on-air discussions about access to information. Here is your opportunity to learn more about the coalition and why we believe our country needs a law to guarantee your right to know. Follow us on our social media feed for details. We will be live on Shipi FM, KCR FM, Oshi FM, OFM, Omaheka Radio, Nast FM, Rapids FM, 99 FM, and Kota FM. Don't be left out. Stay tuned.
Right. Mr. Frederico, let's just continue from where we left off. Why is access to information very important?
Well, I mean, it is important. Okay, let me put it this way. So the theme of this year's International Day for Universal Access to Information is saving lives, building trust, and bringing hope. That is the theme. Access to information, saving lives, building trust, and bringing hope. And this flows from the Sustainable Development Goals, which recognizes access to information as critical to empowerment of women, improving livelihoods, improving food security, education, all sorts of fields where that have an impact on quality human development. So this theme was decided before the whole COVID-19 situation. But under COVID-19, this has become even more appropriate. This theme is just sort of made for our times. We are in a situation where, lives have to be saved. We are in a situation where trust is a challenge. We are in a situation where people need hope. People have lost loved ones. People have lost their jobs. People have lost, livelihoods. We are in a country that isn't just afflicted by one pandemic at the moment. Poverty is prevalent. We have a lot of poverty in our communities. We have a lot of insecurity. We have a lot of hunger in our communities. And the COVID-19 situation has just made all of this worse. We have, a situation of large youth unemployment, which sort of piles on everything else. We have a health crisis unfolding, not just here, but across the region, across the world. So people need hope. And how do you do that? You by providing them with information that gives them assurance, credible information. How do you save lives? By providing people with information to stay healthy, to stay safe, to stay fit, for instance. If you do certain things, you lessen your chances of having a really bad outcome from say, a COVID-19 infection. If you do certain things, if you wear your mask, if you social distance, if you know how to social distance, to physical distance, that sort of information can help you not catch the COVID-19 disease in the first place. So this is sort of information is what people need to save lives, not just theirs, but the lives of others, the lives of the ones that depend on them, because you can bring the virus home and you could cause somebody else to get sick and to possibly die, especially an elderly person in your household. So if you have this information, it empowers you to make decisions that don't just affect you, but affect others. They affect your community, it affects your household. And you can use that information to protect yourself and protect others around you. And of course, if we have that information that's coming from sort of the sources that we want to think as credible, for instance, our health authorities, Ministry of Health and the local health officials and so on, it builds trust in these institutions, in these people, in these officials. They're giving us information that helps us. So it builds trust between the individual, between the community, and sort of the health officials there on the ground. And of course, it gives hope. It brings hope. If you have the information and others have the information that helps them get through this, and we're all in this together, and we're able to stand by each other and help each other, and we recognize that for most of us, especially the weak and the impoverished in our society, this is a very hard period. This is a harsh period, and life is hard right now for a lot of people in our society, in our country, in our communities, in our families. So we need hope for ourselves, and we need hope for those around us, and for just about everybody to get through this. So information, credible information, is really important in all these senses, to get us through this.
All right. Also, the government, how can it benefit? Because we are only looking at it from a point of view of the citizen out there, and the people that normally have this information are whether it's the private sector or just offices. And okay, let's just stick to the government. How does the government benefit from this?
Well, I mean, government officials also, need information to make decisions, to implement, implement programs, to respond to the needs of the people. So, it isn't just this one-way street or this one-way path that where it's simply government that has to give access to information within its under its control. It's also that government needs information from us, from the people, to be able to understand where we are informationally, where we are in terms of what we need, where we are in terms of what is necessary in our communities, in our lives. So there needs to be that flow of information as well. And so we need to engage with government in that sense as well. So it's a two-way path. It's a two-way street. And really we need to communicate, because information needs to be communicated to have, the value that speaks to access to information, freedom of expression, and so forth.
You did mention about the history in terms of this whole project, how you've been going on about it, but I'm very curious to know as to why, what sparked and what invoked this whole campaign, or this main thing that you normally do on ATI. What was the reason, and maybe what's in it for your organization?
So I mean, I'm a researcher. I'm actually a journalist by training, and I started out my career as a journalist, and I've sort of gone into governance research. In that, most of my work now revolves around researching governance issues, specifically corruption, and I look at the areas in my work where corruption can, and how corruption can happen in a society, in this specific society in Namibia. And one of the areas that is sort of a critical area in corruption studies is the area of transparency. So the theorizing is that, the thinking is that if there's greater transparency in your government, in your society, if there's a culture of openness, there's very little space for secret deals and sort of to be done and so forth, because everything is done in the open, decisions are made transparently. Resources such as funds are allocated transparently. Decisions, government procurement decisions, tender decisions are made transparently, so forth. So this is a critical area in for instance, corruption studies, which is where I'm interested in, and so forth. So and we can see, I mean, if you follow the news, a lot of the corruption that we see in Namibian society is because of this lack of transparency, because decision-making is so secret, because we don't know who's making a decision.
Don't know who
and exactly. So this is an area. So this, for me, this all started, I mean, the whole coalition started in 2011. I attended, me and some of the other members of the coalition. At that time, there was no coalition, no action coalition. But we were sort of civil society and journalists and media organizations. We attended the PACAI conference, the Pan-African Conference on Access to Information, which was in Cape Town, South Africa in 2011. And then at this conference, after this conference, we sort of, as Namibian civil society and media organizations, we sort of came together and said, you know what, we need to have our own conference, Access to Information conference, to put this issue sort of in the spotlight here. And so in 2012, in mid-2012, we had a big conference at which we brought in civil society from around the country, and we had a big representation from government, and we had this 2-day conference here in Windhoek, and that's where actually the Action Coalition was born, following this conference, because we decided, you know what, let's just formalize this. Let's form a coalition. We came up with a name, and Action was born. And since then, since 2012, for about 8 years now, we've been pushing for this law. There was a period between 2013 and 2015 when we didn't really do much, when the coalition really seemed to be going nowhere, and a lot of us weren't involved, and we were trying to keep the flame burning, trying to keep things going, trying to stay on message, trying to keep people interested in the cause. And we achieved that by 2015 again, after sort of 3 years of just, not much happening. And since 2015, or since the beginning of 2016, we've been really active. And we've gotten donor support for activities, and we've managed to sort of rebuild the coalition, the Action Coalition, over the years. We want more civil society involvement. We want more citizen participation. But we have to understand that we have to operate within the limitations of our capabilities as a coalition at the moment, because everybody else has their job that they're doing during the day, and sort of our involvement with the Action Coalition is voluntary. Nobody gets paid for it. But we've managed to set up a secretariat and employ people. So that's sort of the journey up to this point, where we are now, where we're on the verge of seeing a law actually introduced. So, which is a good thing.
Very, very good thing. If you are listening out there and maybe you are just in two minds, thinking, what are these guys talking about? Will I sound stupid if I call in? Do not worry. The number to dial, you still have 3 minutes, and now it's 0662566659 is the number to dial. We will have more conversations every month. We will have a more conversation with Frederico Links or someone from the Action Namibia Coalition, in collaboration with First Media, regarding on access to information. This is just the debut of all of the conversations that we are going to have. Maybe just to finalize, as time is not on our side, just to finalize, Mr. Frederico, someone out there is listening, an individual is hearing, he doesn't know what we're talking about. Maybe what do you say to that person with regards to access to information today? What do you have to tell them?
That's a difficult one. Because, we find ourselves in such varying conditions. I don't know what the conditions are on the ground right now in Kavango, where you are. And what situation someone finds themselves in. So all I can say is this is an issue that you really need to take an interest in. If you're interested in the development of your community, if you're interested in your own personal development, you need information for that. And you need all sorts of information for that. And if you don't know where to go for that information, if you're having water connection or electricity connection or rubbish collection problems, let's just say service delivery issues at Rundu, for instance. And I know there are serious service delivery issues that plague that local authority. So you need answers. You want the service, and you pay for it. You should be able to get the information on why things are not being done, how the money is being spent that you're paying for these services, but you're not getting the adequate service that you think you should be getting. Somebody needs to explain that. You need that information, because it's an issue. Access to information is an issue, as I said earlier, of your, not just sort of a collective well-being issue, but it's also a personal well-being issue, where it's about your personal development and your personal well-being. So, I'm hesitant to sort of just make a blanket statement that that doesn't mean anything. But access to information means different things for different people in different situations, but it's important.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Frederico. I really did enjoy having this conversation with you. I was a little bit shaky in the beginning, but thank you very much for helping me score that goal. And we did hopefully the individual out there understands or maybe has an idea of what access to information is. And of course, today is, I'm going to give it to you because the day today is, yeah.
Universal access to information. And it will be marked every year from now on September 28. So please,
yeah.
And thank you very much, Enoch.
You're welcome. And from today, we'll be having conversations with members from their organization on ATI. Thank you very much for coming in, and thank you, of course, for using Rapid FM as a platform to educate people on this.
It's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure.
All right.
I look forward to the next engagement.
All right. Bye-bye, sir.